for God, for country, for truth, for justice, for the Republic. NeoCrusader.com.
People stop now, listen. You don't know what you're missing. The man will take you higher and be your one desire.
Episode 16. The title of this show is The Phantom Socialist Menace. And sort of a follow-up to episode 15, because upon digging deeper into things, I'm beginning to find more out about what actually was going on at the Bechtel Summit that day. It appeared to me initially, I'm on the news saying, hey, it's a bunch of West Virginians, speaking their mind. And I feel like I was a little bit gullible, and I feel like, this is my opinion, I am complaining, but it is of my opinion that there were more nefarious things going on beneath the surface. And I'm going to go ahead and make a few points. Before I do, though, I would like to welcome back to the show my good friend, John Allen Williamson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, and I just have one thing to say. Montani semper liberi.
Libri. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Always free.
Well, hey, listen, if your listeners have to break out in English to Latin dictionary,
hey dude, tomato. I ain't bashing on you, man. Well, I'm just saying freedom, man. It's it's essential.
Well, maybe I misspoke. What I meant to say was mountaineers are always free, and God bless West Virginia, and God bless the United States.
That is three things, sir. You said you had one thing to say, so you've got to choose one of those.
Well, if I have to choose one of them, I choose them all, and we'll just make it a threefer.
Okay, D, all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So
check mark D.
That's it. So, title of the episode, John, is The Phantom Socialist Menace. And so you got a little background into what occurred. I saw you a few days ago, and I hadn't really, in life, even your best buds, sometimes you go one way and they go another, and nary do your paths intertwine. But I saw you the other day, and I was like, man, did you see the news? Have you? And you kind of had missed it all. And so after looking at the videos and listening to the podcast, what did you think?
Well, that brings me back to my opening words there. Mountaineers are always free, and just let's just go ahead and get this out of the way to make everybody happy. Me specifically, is that I want to thank you for bringing this to light to me. I want to thank you personally for you actually stopping and engaging with these, people who are exercising our republic's freedoms to where they can protest. They can stand on the side of the road and they can wave their signs and they can bring forth what they believe.
Well, at the end of the day,
and I appreciate you acknowledging them and engaging with them.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we can't protest, then we've kind of lost it all, haven't we? I believe that.
I believe that we have the right to redress the government for grievances, peacefully assemble, come together and say, hey, look, man, we think what you're doing is wrong. I'm 100% supportive of that. However, I would just ask that the people that are actually at these protests have a real knowledge base of why they are protesting, rather than, let's say, possibly be paid by someone, we'll get further into that later. But to finish my monologue,
and I'll let you finish here in a second. Just to point out,
sure.
Everybody else claims that no one was paid. At that is everybody's stance. I'm sure you heard the whole phone conversation that I had. It sounded to me, I don't know, but it sounded to me like it was pretty much a confirmation that the West Virginia Citizens Action Group was there. So I don't know. Anyway.
Okay,
I'll let you go back to it. I apologize, but
no problem, brother.
Just to point out, I know what it appears like, and I know what you're saying, but
I understand,
everybody says that there were no paid protesters there. So
that this was an allegation that was leveled by me, which was not really an allegation. I'm just saying that I would appreciate that if people wanted to protest something that they felt was wrong, I would really appreciate that to be a heartfelt protest, rather than somebody saying, hey, here's a couple bucks, go say these words and make yourself be known, okay? And I'm not saying that was what this protest was. I do not know. What I do know, what information that I was able to glean from episode 15 and your video, was that there was a group of protesters that had gathered at the Bechtel. And by the way, I want to thank you for using the proper terminology for the name of the summit, because a lot of people around from this area call it Bechtel, and it's actually Bechtel. It's a German name, and that's for more information later on down the road. However, I just want to thank you again for engaging these people. You gave them a voice that was outside of the mainstream media. As a matter of fact, it was interesting to me that there was only one local news organization that was actually present. And no matter how skewed or whatever the way it came off on their broadcast, that's open to conjecture, and we could discuss that at length. However, it's astonishing to me that there was no more. Where were the other ones? I know there's an ABC affiliate here, really close by. Why weren't they there?
Well, here's what's strange, John, and that's part of the reason I said, what is going on? Because that wasn't the president's route.
Right.
Okay, the president wasn't even taking that route into the summit.
Right.
So, on the other side, the actual whole other side, miles away from where the president was going to be.
Mm-hmm. The actual military base, not the Bechtel Reserve, but the military base. The Glen Jean side is the military base.
That is a whole other episode. So.
Yes, it is.
So,
take it out a whole new hole, brother.
But yeah, they were on that side, and I was on my way to pick the kids up, and I saw them there, and I'd heard that there were going to be protesters, but I thought it was Glen Jean. So when I drive past and see them on that end, I'm thinking, why are people protesting here? Everybody knows the route the president's taking. Why are they at the rear of the summit? And so I kind of kicked that around in my head, picked the kids up on the way back through there, and so I thought, hey, let's go ahead and stop. And, I don't have to really recap much. There's video evidence of what occurred, although that I understand now that our closed captioning is somewhat I guess the translation came across. It doesn't speak redneck, so I think it kind of
wow. Well,
crazy.
See, that's why you have to have me do your closed captioning, because I speak fluent redneck.
Well, that'll work. I'll have you transcribe from here on out.
Okay, thank you.
But there was more at work. More was happening there than a political group putting pressure. Well, they want to pass it off as a grassroots citizens movement to.
We are all West Virginians.
To promote.
Doesn't that sound like a slogan to me? Like, because West Virginians are so oppressed that people in California and Connecticut and everything say, well, we're all West Virginians,
what they were
because we feel for them people.
Well, what they were doing was one of the biggest things, that they had out in the forefront was they were trying to put pressure on Capito specifically to, to vote down the bill, which, honestly, she voted yes on one way and then no on another. So I don't know where I don't even know how to take that.
Well, at that point, I would like to say that at this moment, Capito is just one of our issues that we need to look at in the future to address. However, Joe Manchin is probably the most dominant figure that I can think of that we probably should consider our votes for. Well, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to sway anyone in any direction.
Well, I mean, again, that could be a whole other story, but
sure can.
A whole other episode. But with it though, John, there was more happening. Okay, so I've shown that. There was a political organizer there. It wasn't just a group of people that said, "Hey, this isn't right, so let's get." So there's a political organizer there. From how I understand it, and maybe like I said, I've offered you have it on audio. You heard me say, "Hey, will somebody come on and talk to me about this?" Mm-hmm. I have yet to be contacted by anybody, but
okay, well, you can expect that.
Well, anyway.
However, I would like to make one correction. I believe that the term that you were actually wanting to use was a community organizer. Yeah, I think probably it was more of the organizational level. I don't even remember what you said. It was something about organizer.
Well, no, she is an organizer. And that's what she does. So
yeah, like a community organizer. She's going out in the community and she's finding people who are receptive to her talking points. They go, well, yeah, you know what, you're right. She said, well, come on, here you go, come with me.
Well, you would think that, but that wasn't. I don't believe that was the actual whole true motive behind that whole protest.
Okay, well, let's get into the deeper subject there.
Okay, well, and there is. So, I'll wait a few days, and then out of the blue, one of the protesters that was there contacts me on Facebook. Now, I put out a post because the news, who has not contacted me back either, by the way.
Oh, you mean WVNS?
Well, I have not heard from them as well. No one has even returned an email to me. So that's fine.
Okay, so mainstream media, in other words. Not any specific station, but mainstream has yet to contact you about solicitations that you may like to regard more.
No, not solicitations. No, that the misrepresentation of me being a participant.
Were they not salacious representations?
They possibly. I was not, again, protect.
Yeah, there I go with them big words again, right?
Well, anyway, what I'm saying though is that